Politicking with the Coat of Arms, an editorial by opposition leader Kamla Persad Bissessar. Columbus was wrongly celebrated for years as a discoverer of the Americas when, in fact, he was hopelessly lost and thought he had discovered islands off the eastern coast of India and China. Apart from being a navigational idiot, he was a murderer, rapist, slaver, and thief who ushered in hundreds of years of the genocide of millions of indigenous persons, the enslavement of Africans, and the indentureship of Indians, Portuguese, and Chinese, among others. It will always be debated whether he was an evil maniac or just a product of those times. Politicians erasing history by removing symbols and changing names as disingenuous political strategies will not improve or change citizens' understanding of our history, which has primarily been written to be pro-European. The nation's true history should be taught in our schools, and it should provide the good and bad of all our historical figures from both pre- and post-colonial periods. And while we look at the misdeeds of the European colonialists dating back hundreds of years, we hypocritically remain silent on the similarly evil acts committed by some of our own ancestors in the Indian subcontinent, Africa, China, the Middle East, and pre-1492 Americas. We also remain silent on our ancestors who were complicit with colonialists in enabling the horrific slave trade, indentureship, and genocides. Slavery, indentureship, forced labor, and religious and racial apartheid still occur in many of our ancestral nations to this day. It is estimated that almost 50 million persons are trapped in modern-day slavery, indentureship, or forced labor. Most of these persons can be found in our ancestral areas of the world and not in Europe. Yet no one speaks of this fact because political mileage and excuses for our post-colonial failures and present societal conditions cannot be gained from it. The truth of our past and present is bitter and harsh and should not be manipulated to serve any singular agenda. Instead, it should be used to enlighten successive generations so they will not repeat the mistakes and misdeeds of the past. Sanitizing history, truth, and free speech in the modern era of wokeness, virtue signaling, and cancel culture will only promote ignorance and foster the repetition of evil acts in the future that can be preventable. We have been an independent nation for 62 years, creating our own development policies, legislation, societal strata, and political systems. Our collective actions as a people over the past 62 years have created our present conditions and will dictate the future. We cannot continue deflecting and blaming the colonial powers and 500-year-old dead men for the mistakes and wrongs that we have committed against each other since independence. At some point, we have all used the weaponization of painful and evil parts of our history for propaganda to gain the upper hand in arguments. The average citizen, just like politicians, has also used it to throw up a brick wall to prevent further scrutiny of their views when faced with arguments they believe they are losing. The fact is, we are all guilty of misusing and rewriting history to suit our own agenda, at times for personal and professional gain. That is the truth, and we must all understand and accept that. We must not hide from it. Many people are engrossed in debating the changes to the coat of arms and the many possible practical effects of such change. Many people are asking how these changes will affect high crime, high food prices, high unemployment, and other negative issues facing our country. However, many are missing the dangerous territory the Prime Minister leads the nation into by attempting to use painful historical events regarding painful emotional memories and ethnic issues for general election campaigning. This entire political conversation, starting with the proposed changes to the coat of arms, is a tinderbox that can be ignited when emotions run high and ignorant. Unscrupulous persons begin gaslighting the population. This is how ethnic rivalries, societal strife, and hate are stirred up in a primarily peaceful, multicultural society like ours, which can then devolve into violence and destroy our societal peace. We have seen this all over the world before. All political parties and leaders have rolled out the bogey of the white man and colonialism when faced with difficult domestic, political, and economic situations to deflect from facing any responsibility. Removing monuments, reparations, name changes, and accurately telling our history are too important to our collective identity, unity, and future development for citizens to allow their misuse by anyone. These emotionally sensitive issues should not be misused as political propaganda for any electoral success, as it makes a mockery of the brutal suffering of our ancestors. These issues should be dealt with by independent committees of suitably qualified historians, social science intellectuals, and legal personnel in a neutral, objective, and non-political manner. I call on citizens to carefully consider the issues affecting them at present and hold all politicians and leaders, including myself, accountable for their actions, plans, and policies in the next general elections. We must campaign for general elections on issues to improve the lives and well-being of our citizens and desist from exploiting painful historical events and memories to stir up emotional urges that may create serious ethnic divisions in the future. We love this country, and we all love our fellow citizens. Let us carefully consider our path forward. The author is the opposition leader of Trinidad and Tobago.